I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the passing of Joni Lauer, better known as Chyna.
See what we did there, WWE? Something you didn't.
I feel like we were all very big DX guys. I know I personally had influence in my life from Degeneration X. I was an angry, misguided teenager when DX came around.
Definitely doing some crotch chopping in your time.
I did my fair share of crotch chopping, but I think their whole mentality of, like you said in your promo, you make the rules and we will break them. I became a very rebellious kid. I was influenced a lot by the things that they did. I felt like I can push back against somebody trying to tell me what to do or tell me what to wear. I wasn't going to let anybody think they were better. Like I said, I took a lot of influence from her, and Chyna was a huge part of that.
She was a big part of that staple.
And
yeah,
I don't know if she got credit for as big of a part of it as she was at the time. I know everybody now.
First woman in the Rumble. She's gorilla pressing men.
First woman in the King of the Ring. First woman Intercontinental Champion. We talk a lot about women's wrestling on this show. You said one of the main reasons you even watch Raw is for the women.
Yeah.
She was kind of what we're talking about now 15 years ago. It was just unfortunate that there was nobody else really on par with her. They said she didn't even want to win the women's championship because she was kind of like, I'm too much for that.
Yeah, it was a shoot. She even said it on TV.
Yeah, she did. So your feelings on Degeneration X, your feelings on Chyna's contributions.
Well, she was, like I said, she was a big part of that stable. Chyna, like first woman in the Royal Rumble, she set some of the groundwork to where we're at now. Some of the future where we're seeing women more respected in wrestling, taking more bumps, being out there. Degeneration X was huge. I mean, a huge part of the Attitude Era. You could argue all you want with that, but that's just the truth of the matter. I loved when they just took their tank down, the WCW, were out front and calling out.
Oh yeah, so that actually leads me to another point. I liked DX when it was Triple H at the head. It was the New Age Outlaws and X-Pac along with Chyna. That was fine. And I am aware that Rick Rude was a charter member of DX, but I always viewed DX as HBK, Triple H, and Chyna. And the fact that she was almost like Roman Reigns was the enforcer of the Shield, she was the enforcer of DX, and they were your champion and the guy who would become the game.
Yeah, and she was a huge part in the game's life until he decided to trade up a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. I felt WWE could have done a little more last night on Raw.
Oh, they could have done something.
Did you feel like they did enough on Raw last night?
Well, I remember the day Chyna left. Well, they didn't re-sign Chyna.
Right.
Because she left immediately after Judgment Day 2001, after she beat Lita in the Women's Championship match. Mm-hmm. You didn't hear from her again. They didn't mention the Women's Championship or nothing. They didn't bring the Women's Championship back until Survivor Series 2001 later that year. And I never stopped watching, and to my knowledge, they've never ever mentioned Chyna
Again.
No. Since then. Since 2001.
She became irrelevant. They erased her from
the
books almost.
Initially.
Kind of like AJ Lee?
Yeah, but this was 2001.
Yeah.
Before they were that petty.
Yeah.
But Chyna, no doubt, was way ahead of her time. The thing I love about Chyna, you knew Chyna was there. When she would accompany the Outlaws, X-Pac, Triple H to the ring, the camera would pay a lot of attention to Chyna.
Oh, she was always a part of the story that was being told.
Yeah, especially with Triple H. It was essentially a handicap match. And the way they...
Eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
And I gotta give kudos to Triple H for coming up with the idea of having a woman as his bodyguard. That was great. And back to Chyna being so relevant, the things they would do to make sure she wasn't a factor in matches. Sergeant Slaughter would handcuff her.
She was up in the cage.
She was up in the cage at Unforgiven 98. They had her rip the bars off the cage. They portrayed her
superhuman almost.
She's superhuman as a what would they call her? An Amazon.
Yeah.
And she drew so much, and she was so over. I remember the first night they had her talk.
She played Incredible Hulk a little later in her career.
The first time they had her talk, the crowd loved it. Even when they had the corporate rumble against with the corporation DX to see who would be number 30 in the Rumble, and Vince thought he won, and they had Chyna come out because he thought there was no members of DX left, and Chyna won. The crowd lost it. She was the first one to be in the Rumble, first one in the King of the Ring, first IC champion, and she also paved the way for that kind of a look of a woman. Like, you don't see many of those kind of women. The only woman I can think of is Beth Phoenix, but she's not that tall. No. And the other one's probably Awesome Kong, but she was built differently.
Very different.
Especially back then, they were all models. They weren't like legit in-ring performers.
Yeah. Chyna, she was okay in the ring, but she could hold her own for the most part.
And when she was in there with most of the men she was in there with, it wasn't unbelievable. You could buy into
believe
the
she
idea.
would win, yes.
Right.
And then a lot of things people don't remember, like she had a feud with Chris Jericho over the Intercontinental title.
So that one of my favorite things I saw in all of this, people were posting pictures, videos, GIFs of all this different stuff. The one of her hitting Jericho with the IC title when he was on the ring apron, and he falls off the ring apron and slides over the announce table is probably my favorite thing I saw.
And then another thing is, people forget about her Mamacita thing with Eddie Guerrero.
I was going to mention
I was a big fan of that. It kind of
Latino heat.
Yeah, it kind of human, because Chyna was never recognized as really a female. She was this bodyguard Amazon, but with the Mamacita thing with Eddie Guerrero, she was portrayed as a female woman with feelings.
For the first time.
For the first time ever. But
I was watching a lot of the old DX stuff they have on the network, and Shamrock, the night after the Montreal Screwjob, comes down and challenges Michaels. And he keeps saying to Chyna, whatever you are, I don't know if you're a man, I don't know if you're a woman, whatever you are. And it was jarring to me that would be what they're saying to this woman. Like, I don't know if you're a man or a woman.
Well, it's Mr. Personality, Ken Shamrock.
Well,
he needed something to...
His promo skills left a lot to be desired, but that was how she was portrayed, as we don't even know if she's a man or a woman. They were doing a strip poker game.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was so good.
And Lawler kept saying, because I think HBK, he had lost his shirt, his shoes, and his socks. Hunter had lost his shirt, and Chyna hadn't lost anything. And Lawler said something about, it's a shame Chyna's such a good card player because she hadn't lost anything yet. And JR said, well, maybe that's a good thing. And I was like, they really threw it out there. They're like, oh, she's hideous, she's ugly, she's disgusting, she's not even a woman. But that's a great point that you bring up, that the whole Eddie Guerrero thing, she was viewed as a woman that a man he sought after her.
A sex symbol in a way.
Yes, for the first time in her career.
Yeah, and then after the Mamacita thing with Eddie Guerrero, she got into Playboy, and I'm not going to talk about other stuff. Yeah. But she, I'm saddened to what happened. We all know the story, whatever. But hopefully she gets her spot in the Hall of Fame. I know they've gone back and forth for years with talking back and forth.
That's just a tough position though, because Triple H and her obviously have history. Yeah, now she's married. Now they're married.
I think it's more of a Stephanie and Vince thing.
Exactly, Stephanie. That's my point. Because it's kind of there.
On Austin podcast, Triple H made a point about she deserves a spot, but they're worried about when they type her name in.
Right.
It made sense. People have said when you type it in, it didn't come up, but there was a certain video she did about wrestling.
Yeah.
That might come up. But I just hope she gets a spot in this whole thing because she deserves it.
She definitely deserves it.
I understand the spot they're in. That is not the worst thing.
Yeah.
A Google search on Chyna is not the worst thing that's ever happened in the world of wrestling. So that should not be a reason to keep her out of the Hall of Fame.
It's already a known fact, too, so it's not like you're masking or disguising anything that's not known. You're not celebrating her career after wrestling. You're celebrating her career for the huge amount of time she was in there, a huge part of DX, and the things she brought to wrestling.
Right. They want to call her a pioneer and a trailblazer and all this stuff. Well, if she was that, then she deserves to be there.
Yeah.
She should have been there while she was still alive.
Yeah.
And this is something I say all the time. Is like, it's a shame how many people, and it seems like almost every year, there's someone in the Hall of Fame that's posthumously inducted who isn't old enough that they shouldn't have been there for it.
And then there's always the person that should have been in a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, Savage.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason he shouldn't have been in there. One of the first classes they ever did. My last point on Chyna. Obviously, we all know the contribution she made to the wrestling world. We all know what a big part she was of the Attitude Era. A big part that she's probably played in a lot of the women's wrestlers who are out there now. But her problems were well documented. She suffered from substance abuse issues, mental and emotional issues.
That relationship with X-Pac was cancerous.
Awful. But this just leads me to my point. The one thing I think you should always learn from when somebody goes too soon, because too many people do, especially in the world of wrestling. If you know anyone with substance abuse issues, don't let them off the hook. Don't give up on them. Try to help them until, if it's unfortunate if they go.
I mean, look, Jake the Snake Roberts. He was battling those demons for years. Now he's fighting the good fight. So
right.
There's always
you
hope.
have to stand by people that are going through those kind of issues, because you never know. You might get frustrated thinking, I can never get through to this person. You don't know what it will take. You never know. One day you might get through, or one day somebody else might get through. People like that need people by them. They need love. They need support. They need tough love a lot of times, and they need honesty from people. If you have substance abuse issues, if you have mental issues, if you have emotional issues you're suffering from, don't be afraid to tell people. Don't be afraid to go to a professional, because that could save your life.
I mean, speaking from personal experience, too, I know you regret if you didn't do everything you can to save that person when he was still here or when they were still there.
Right.
So you definitely don't ever want to give up on anyone.
Yeah, if you give up on somebody and
you'll
leave
beat yourself up.
And you can never get that back.
Ever.
So, not to get too heavy, but I think it's an important issue, and I think a lot of people are afraid to see a psychiatrist or a therapist. I think it's important. When your car breaks down, you don't just leave it and wait till it fixes itself. You go to a mechanic because they know how to fix it. You go to somebody who knows how to help you.
Look at Team Hell No. Where would they be if they never see a psychiatrist?
You're right.
Help them.
They never would have decided who was the real tag team champions.
We'll plug Dr. Shelby's car.
So, Chyna, you are a legend. You were great when you were here. We will never forget the contributions that you made. We appreciate all the work that you put in. We wish that WWE would have given you more credit for the things that you did before, Monday night.